Appreciate it, Claude. On to Ball State for us. I think they've got a really good football team. I don't know Coach Mike Mews well, but I'm going to get to meet him, obviously, and got a lot of respect for their conference. We played Kent State out of this conference last year, and the MAC has done an incredible job of creating a good football environment and some really good football teams. So we got to put last game to bed this morning, which we don't usually get to do on Monday, but with the no school, we're able to jump ahead. So this afternoon, we'll jump straight into Ball State and get these guys going and get prepared for them.
Yeah, Coach, when you went back and had a chance to watch the tape, how'd you feel like the offensive line played, particularly in the first half? Seemed like they got things picked up in the second.
Probably not less on them and more on us. The team did a good job. UT Martin did a good job changing some things up. We had some plans to handle some things a different way, and they did a couple things to hurt us and probably hurt our offensive line more than our offensive line didn't play well. We probably got to do a better job of helping them out, in-game adjustments and things like that. But I did think they played better in the second half. They pass protected well throughout the game, really the first half and the second half. We didn't run the ball particularly well in the first half, and that probably led to some of the issues we had.
Coach, I know it's a real general question, but what are the biggest improvements you want to see your team make from this week to last week to this week?
God, I don't even know how to. A lot. There's so many things we can get better at, and every coach in the country is saying that you get better from game one to game two is the biggest jump you make. So if that's the case, then there's a lot of areas to improve in. Certainly, turnovers on defense, pursuit angles. We got cut back on several times. Offensively, ability to be explosive in the run game, convert on third downs. There's a lot of things. Special teams, I didn't think we didn't dominate the game in any way on special teams like we're capable of. So I can't pinpoint one area.
Kirby, you guys faced Ball State trying back last year when he was at Kent State, Marquez Cooper. Just what do you remember about how he played in that game and his skill set? Really physical, downhill, power runner, good back. Our guys were talking about him just this morning of how powerful he was and how ironic it is you're playing against him again at a different school in the same conference. So we got a lot of respect for him.
Kirby, everybody talks about offense finding a rhythm. What about defense? How does a defense find rhythm? What does that mean in terms of you if they're not, I guess, where they want to be or where you want to be from the jump?
I think rhythm's a weird thing on defense. I don't know that. Rhythm to me is 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. That's not realistic, right? Like, that's not going to happen in today's day and age. People have ability to get first downs, be explosive. There's so many different ways to run offense. You can go really fast. You can play on the perimeter. You can trick people. You can go right at people. There's just lots of options, and offenses are so much more elaborate now than they've ever been. So defining rhythm for a defense it's not necessarily easy. Rhythm to me is havoc related. Like, when we would be in our best rhythm was when we would be creating the most havoc. Tackles for a loss, PBUs, interceptions, sacks, and we didn't hit our havoc goal the other day, and played decent on defense, but you can't hit your havoc goal if they get the ball out in 2.1 seconds. It's hard to do that. You got to bat balls, you got to force turnovers, and we didn't do those.
So where E.J. Lightsey wasn't dressed out, is he injured or?
Yeah, he's dealing with an injury. He's got, golly, my mind just went blank. I can't remember what EJ's dealing with exactly, but he's had some shoulder pain, some back pain from a high school injury, and he's been fighting that. So we're hopeful to get him back.
Kirby, regarding your walk-ons, do you have a coach or staffer that oversees them? And is there anything different for them being in the program versus a scholarship guy in terms of, like, do they have to sit in the back of the room for team meetings or anything like that?
No. I hold walk-ons in the highest regard. And as we recruit them, we explain to them that they will not be treated any differently, and they'll be treated just the same and afforded the same opportunities. Now, I think if you asked the walk-ons that question, and we had a kid stand up in one of our connection meetings, and I thought he did a tremendous job. I said, explain to everybody what it's like being a walk-on. And he might tell you that's different. You know, he might say, well, you don't get the first shot. You know, you have to really earn it. You have to truly earn it. You have to go out there and work. You have to be part of the scout team and just outwork people. And we've had some guys do that. We show Prather Hudson examples all the time that first year I was here, he was busting long runs repeatedly on our defense, and he earned his way to a scholarship and a really good player. And we have a lot of opportunities for that. So when it comes to team meeting, you sit by your class, not by your hierarchy in the locker room. It's not like there's a room over here for I mean, I hold walk-ons in high regard. And it's very personal to me that they get treated just like everyone else. Now, I can't say that every one of them would say that, but I certainly try to do that.
Coach, you mentioned Saturday night when we got a chance to talk to you, wanting to double up right there before the half in the 2-minute drill. I guess after the big play to Dom, what went into the decision to run the ball with no timeouts right there?
Bad deal, man. Bad deal. To be honest with you, it's just a miscue, not knowing how close it was to the goal line and probably making a decision too fast. We spend a lot of time on those moments like that, and I take a lot of pride in moments like that, and should never happen, should never happen. But making a decision really fast, sometimes you don't make the right decision. We had enough time there. We actually got the ball snapped without losing any time on the clock. But the decision was thinking it was probably closer than it actually was, and it cost us. It cost us at least one play.
Coach, when did you become aware that Jarvis Jones got arrested Friday night, and what is your reaction, and will there be any internal repercussions?
Yeah, there'll be internal discipline. It's a personnel matter, and I really can't comment further on it.
Yeah, Ladd and Daijun don't play. You've discussed their injury before. What's sort of the plan with them and in terms of getting them up to speed and getting them in a place where they can contribute and possibly see the field?
You're asking about the injury or where they are? Daijun, we feel like could have played. I think I said that the other night. We think Daijun could have played in that game. He practiced. He warmed up. He did everything leading up to the game. He's actually had this injury before. I can't remember if it was Vanderbilt or maybe Florida during the off week last year. Very similar injury. We feel good about him. I haven't seen him practice today, so I don't know that, but I feel pretty good about Daijun. I thought he could have gone last week. And then Ladd, he's day-to-day. I mean, we thought he might be able to go last week, and he wasn't. He was really a game-time decision, didn't feel good on Friday, so we held him on Saturday, and he's running today, but he's dealing with some back pain that's been lingering for him.
Coach, ask you a little more about Carson. You didn't have to go back and looking at the tape. Was nerves a problem maybe right at first career start and all that? Just overall, how do you think he played?
I don't understand. I mean, I don't understand you guys sometimes. I really don't. I thought Carson played. I thought just like I did when I looked at it. I came in there and talked to y'all Saturday night. I thought Carson played really well. He played composed. I'm trying to think of the throws that were just awful or erratic, and I didn't see that. And I thought the 1 3rd down, he admittedly threw the ball a little bit behind Dom, thinking Dom was sitting down, and Dom broke in, which Dom was correct, and he missed him on that throw. But outside of that, there's going to be incompletions in games. There's going to be looks that maybe they fool you with you didn't see in the weekend scouting report. But his run check game, his carrying out his fakes, his decision in the pocket, him throwing the ball away. I mean, I thought the guy for a first start played really well.
Kirby, 2 questions. One about what did you see in Mekhi Mews that made you go after him, and is he or Dan Jackson, or have you awarded any of the walk-on scholarships recently? Do you have room for that?
Yeah, I don't get into I'm not big into the talking about the scholarships and doing that. We have multiple guys who've gotten them, outside of the one time I think Notre Dame locker room we awarded Rod, and I learned a valuable lesson in that I don't think that's always worth the publicity that you get. I think sometimes you can do more damage than good with guys that may feel like they deserve one. And we keep that internal, and if it gets out, it gets out. But Dan and Mews have been tremendous. There's another 20 walk-ons that go out and practice so hard every day that you don't get to see because maybe they don't have quite the ability or they're not quite as far up the depth chart. So I really respect all those guys. And it's a credit to Mews, who came in here and wanted an opportunity to compete, earned it. We saw him in high school, and he was high on our preferred walk-on list, and he earned it. He came out and really competed and did a great job, and he's I think everybody on the team will tell you he's earned what he's gotten with the way he practices.
Kirby, you touched on Carson's run checks. I'm just curious, kind of for layman, like how much freedom does a quarterback have, and how is Carson when you're at the line and you maybe see 8 in the box, but you've got a run play call? How much freedom does a quarterback have right then to change the play or change the direction of it or whatever?
Yeah, there's parameters you give them. There's runs that have checks. There have runs that have checks from run to run. There are runs that have checks from run to pass. There's certain looks you're allowed to check to pass. Every week we package those, but not every play has those. So there's sometimes when you're going to sit back and, as you guys can do and we can do as coaches, you can second guess and say, well, he should have thrown that ball because it had an option to throw. Then there's the check to a throw, which is completely different than a run pass option. So it's really complicated and elaborate, but he did what he was coached to do, and he did exactly the things that we want him to do. They got 2 outside, we're checking this. Okay, they got this, we're doing this. He followed those, and he's already done that. Like, he did that all last year under Coach Monken. So, like, he did it in practice because he had to be ready to play. If they've got this coming, we can't run that play. We got to go over here and do this play. So not every play has that because some plays are fastball, some plays are speed break. Every play has its own identity, but he's very bright and he understands it, and we're lucky that we can do some of the things we can do because he's like Stetson in that way, that he's been in the system long enough to handle the volume.
Coach, you had high praise for C.J. Allen after the game on Saturday. Now that you've had a closer look with film, how do you feel he did in terms of understanding the defense and being at the right place at the right time?
Yeah, the praise I have for C.J. Allen is not more about his performance, but his ability to handle information and play within our defensive scheme at the signal caller position. So like that position, you go comb the country, you're not going to see a ton of freshman linebacker that are out there playing, making the calls. Like that is impressive. As far as how he played, I think he had some jitters. I think he was nervous. I think a lot of our guys were. Anxiety there. You got to go out and play in your first college game. I mean, I can't imagine going straight from high school to being out there and playing, and he got afforded that opportunity, and he played okay, but he really bright.
Kirby, I know you're not big into the fanfare, but obviously Brian Kelly last night made a reference to Georgia. I guess I wondered if you'd heard about it and what your reaction is when he said we thought we were the 2-time national champion Georgia Bulldogs in reference to the maybe thinking they could roll their helmet out in the second half. What does it say when your program is, getting those kind of remarks from your peers, where peers like Coach Kelly's putting you guys on a bit of a pedestal there?
Says you're 1 week away from humility. All it says is, how are we going to practice today?
With time to look back at the film, what did you make of Ernest's first start, how he handled himself?
Yeah, it's interesting. I was just talking to Ernest going out there. It's like, in my mind, I see Ernest like this. Man, he's been out there all spring. He's competed. He's played. It's like, he's in his second or third year, and you forget that was his first game in, I guess, 2 years from high school, and he has not had to play. He didn't even get to play. You think about all the guys that got to play last year in the games we had to lead. He never got that. Now, my expectation is that he plays the level of a starter, and he flashes at times to be sudden, quick, do everything right, and then he had a couple plays where he didn't. And I'm like, you know what? That's no different than C.J. Allen. That's no different than Dylan Bell was last year. He's going to go through those WTF moments, I call them, and it's inevitable that they're going to have them. And he had a couple, but he also had a couple really, really good plays. And I'm excited about what he can do if he continues to grow and get better. He can't have those moments.
Hey, Kirby, I know you mentioned that Kendall is still sort of pushing through injury. Just where is he in terms of how he responded to playing Saturday? And then I guess what does it say about him that he did want to push through the way that he is?
Well, Kendall's dying to get out there, man. This guy got a great heart, great soul, he loves this program. He'll give anything for this program, and it kills him not to be out there. And he has not been able to practice most of camp due to his injury. And we're dealing a little bit now with all right, how does he stay warm and able to do it? Because when he's used to playing, right, he plays in a rotation at running back, but he played on all the special teams. Well, now he's not doing that. So when he's not in on offense, he sits over there, it gets cold, he's got to stay warm. He goes in at halftime, leg tightens up, and he doesn't have what I call the camp stamina. He didn't really go through camp. He worked out, he ran, he did what he had to do, but he could not get himself in playing shape just by camp. So we're really battling that now to get him back right. And I think he said himself, if you asked him, he said, I'm around 92%. That's what he quoted at asked. And I don't think his stamina's at 92%. I think when he's 100% conditioned, he's at 92%. And we're trying to fight that to get him back. It's a delicate line, right, of do you bring him back and try to play him and get him in shape, or you sit on the shelf and you don't get carries, you don't get. I mean, that action he got the other day was like scrimmage 1 and scrimmage 2 because he didn't get to play in those.
Coach, Saturday night you mentioned jitters. We don't even have to talk about the quarterback position, but just as the offense as a whole, how much of the responsibility relies on the coordinator to settle his players in that moment, and how do you go about doing that?
Yeah, I don't think you can say it's up to a coordinator to settle the players. You certainly can call it conservatively to try to figure out where we are, where the guys are. You got 2 backs that have never played, never carried a ball. Got a quarterback that's never started. You got 2 starting receivers I know of out, one that's played a lot, and Meek's out. So there's a lot of new pieces of the puzzle, let's say. And I have high expectations for all those guys, but there's a little anxiety there and, a little bit of let's figure out where we are. And when you take the gloves off and say, all right, let Carson go play, then he goes and he plays well. And those guys did too. I mean, think about C.J. Smith and Ra and Dom for the plays they made. And it's different for Ra and Dom. I can't explain it because they've made plays in our league, but they haven't made them here.
Kirby, will Marcus Rosemy be available this weekend to play? And what do you miss when a guy with his amount of experience isn't out there?
Yeah, Marcus is going to be available to play, and the number one thing we miss is leadership. I mean, the guy is incredible as a leader, and he stands up, admits when he made a mistake, and he is one of the toughest, most competitive. Like, the practice today for him will be like the Super Bowl. And every day is like that for him. I mean, he sets an example in that room that I think it embodies our receiver room. I haven't been around a receiver room that actually cares as much about blocking as these guys do, and they do that because their leader has that personality.
Kirby, we saw Smael Mondon get in, I think, was it maybe 1 snap, run somebody down, and then you basically
Did he only play 1?
Well, the only one I remember. But there's a guy that how close is he to being back fully?
He's close. We felt like in some sub situations he would be able to play, and I thought he played. I didn't chart it, so I don't know, but I know the player you're talking about over on our sideline. That's the only one I remember. But he feels good, feels healthy. It's another one of those deals. Can he get in shape by running and playing without wearing his legs out and staying fresh? So, but he looks good out there, and we expect him to be able to play. I mean, he was cleared to go this week, and it was one of those we were going to be safe as we could.
Time for 2 more questions. Coach, with the outside linebackers being such a young room, how did you evaluate the play of those guys last week?
Well, we didn't get to see a whole lot. They in the run game, I thought they did a good job. Chaz had several good closes, several good plays, setting edges. I mean, the things that hurt us in terms of quarterback run was not always on them. So we got hurt on quarterback runs several times. It was a couple times the linebacker, one time the safety. I mean, it was different things. I don't think we didn't really get a chance to drop back pass and say, can you get home in 3.5 seconds? 50% of sacks happen after 4 seconds. I don't know if they had a pass that lasted over 4 seconds. So it's just the same song, different year of if the ball's going to get out quick, what are your answers, and how can we grow those guys? We need growth in that room because there's like this big level race. There's like all these guys that are just kind of the same spot, and no one has done that. And we need somebody to step up in there.
Coach, I'm assuming you watched the Kentucky-Ball State game. It seemed like Ball State played them pretty tough, especially in the first half. The score didn't really tell the whole story. What's the initial thoughts that you have on them and the problems that they present?
Very impressed, both sides of the ball. You're right, it's 7-3. They're up on Kentucky in the second. And I watched the game, and I'm like, man, these guys are a really good team. Now, we had watched them in the offseason because we wouldn't have but 1 game on them. And young quarterbacks playing really well. They do a good job of mixing it up in terms of bringing the athletic quarterback in. They've had some tough injuries, but they have a really good football team.